Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon and evening.
So we are waiting for Kara, right? Or do we proceed without her? Okay. Send a message. Kara. So do you see my screen?
Yes.
We kick off the recording then. I need a host to give me permission to record. Or maybe Kara, could you please?
Looks like it's already recording.
Okay, so then welcome to February. And thanks for joining the meeting. Today we don't have so many topics on the agenda. So there is a proposal to apply for HackMD sponsorship and maybe to transfer CDF TOC and other channels to HackMD. Then there is a new proposal from Fatih for software supply chain special interest group and general review for TOC roadmap. Do you have any other topics you would like to discuss today?
Yeah, I think FOSDEM is happening this weekend. Yeah, maybe that could be a reminder. Yeah.
Thanks for the reminder. Yeah. Add it to the agenda. Okay. Yeah, regarding application to HackMD. So would you like to describe this step?
Yeah, as most of you know, HackMD was a fully open source service where communities could go and use it for collaborative editing, for keeping minutes of meeting or agendas or other documents that would help community to have collaborative editing. And the service was fully free until end of last year. And I think beginning of this year, they introduced some kind of subscription model, and that brings up limits like number of commits you could push to GitHub or number of versions you could display on HackMD user interface. And as you know, most of our special interest groups are heavily using HackMD, like SIG interoperability is using that one, SIG events, I believe it is using HackMD, SIG best practices, and not just for agenda, but other SIG documents or other types of documents community collaborates on. And when I read the information on HackMD, it looks like they have a non-profit sponsorship tier, which is like community plan. And this issue is about CDF looking for possibilities to get the sponsorship for CDF community so we can continue using HackMD for our community collaborative editing purposes. And I think I shared this with SIG events as well, and I see Andrea there. Like, we can of course look at fully open source tools, but then that requires us to migrate to other places. So that's kind of a topic for us to discuss if we should, continue using HackMD or look for other places.
Yeah, there is one potential obstacle with that. So I'm not sure what's the current state, and Kara, please correct me if I'm wrong, but when we were transferring trademarks of Jenkins to the Continuous Delivery Foundation, we had obstacles because legally speaking, the Continuous Delivery Foundation is not non-profit according to US laws. Well, there are multiple categories of non-profits, and the CDF wasn't that category that would be eligible for such kinds of operations. So we still need to verify eligibility.
Okay, I don't know those things. So
I'll circle back with you, Oleg, but the LF is certainly a nonprofit, and I would assume that the CDF is as well.
There were some issues with legal entities. Well, in this case, the problem was also with the trademark because we were transferring it from SPI. I believe it's 503C or something like that. Yeah, I don't recall tax policies for all of that in the United States. But yeah, there was a problem that we wouldn't be able to transfer the trademark to the Linux Foundation legal entity. And that's why Jenkins trademark is owned by another legal entity called LF Charities, which is also under the umbrella of the Linux Foundation, but it's another legal entity. And how it would be handled by HackMD team, no idea. Well, asking is free for in any case.
But yeah, the issue is logged in foundation backlog. So Kara, if you have more information, the issue is there. And then like, I think we could still survive for a couple of more weeks by limiting number of commits we are pushing to our repos. But after the first half of the year, then we may get stuck with the limit, or we may hit the limit.
Okay, thank you for launching this, Feti. My instinct is that we could be able to conform for this program. I will look into what the nonprofit status of the CDF is, like what is the legal coding for it, if it's a 503 or whatnot. But I'll find that out and circle back on the issue. Thank you, Feti.
Thanks.
So there is an opportunity in the worst case to just give SIG leaders, etc., paid accounts, maybe even as a temporary solution. Because if it's $5 per month, I think we can afford it for some time. It's also something to consider. Yeah, for me, definitely +1. HackMD provides really good experience for participants. So if there is a opportunity to keep that, we should keep that, and maybe once confirmed, even move TOC to HackMD, because it would be also quite convenient.
Yeah, maybe if someone is thinking like, why are we using HackMD but not Google Docs? We actually started using on Google Docs with SIG interval, but then we had participants from Southeast Asia with Great Firewall and so on, which kind of blocks Google service access. So that's why we moved to HackMD. So that's how we started using HackMD 2 years ago.
Okay, so fingers crossed this nonprofit application works out. Okay. So basically a Kara to follow up, right?
Yes. I'll follow up on the issue. I'll just put a comment in there.
Thank you. So the next one is software supply chain SIG.
So that is me who added the topic as well. So I have slides, but I can speak through like the thoughts behind the idea of proposing this new special interest group. But if you want to see the slides, I can share my screen as well. But yeah.
If you want to go ahead, or we can just take a look at this proposal.
Yeah, just some kind of background. We all probably are aware of all these discussions happening in different communities and across industry, and with the engagement from government organizations, regulatory bodies, standards organizations, and so on. The supply chain has become one of the critical issues that are relevant to open source communities. And there are different communities who are trying to contribute to improving security posture of source projects, as well as commercial software as well. And one of the, I think, most recent communities that actually started a lot of work in this domain is OpenSSF, Open Source Security Foundation. And that committee has lots of working groups, and they are looking to bring in new projects to help with security of supply chain. And in parallel to that, and maybe even before OpenSSF was launched, in different groups in Continuous Delivery Foundation, we start talking about this topic as well, but without calling it software supply chain explicitly. For example, in interoperability special interest group, we start talking about standardized metadata in interfaces, and standardized metadata discussions brought us into software bill of materials topic. So we actually start talking about these things without, naming things properly. In addition to that, again, in special interest group interoperability, we start talking about policy-driven continuous delivery as well to ensure how we can employ, guardrails to make sure the CI/CD pipelines we are establishing and running have means to ensure quality, security, and integrity, and those type of things. Over time, the discussions in special interest group interoperability focused on supply chain aspects as well. And this kind of result in some kind of a trigger for a few of us saying, okay, special interest group interoperability has been looking at these topics, but the group was looking to these topics from technology perspective, like how the CI/CD orchestration systems or technologies interact with each other, how these systems could interact with external systems like policy frameworks or the frameworks or tools that help with signing artifacts and so on. But our focus within interoperability was more oriented towards how these systems could interact with each other from technological perspective mainly, even though we had some discussions around how they could be employed by organizations or communities as well. And based on these observations, few of us start talking about on opening up this discussion within Continuous Delivery Foundation as well, because as you know, Continuous Delivery Foundation is home to most popular CI/CD technologies such as Jenkins, Tekton, Jenkins-X, Spinnaker, Scriptdriver, and CD events lately. And the thing is, another thing, this kind of personally a bit disturbed me is like I have been taking part in OpenSSF conversations as well, especially joining security tooling working group. And I felt the focus on CI/CD aspects in that group. They talk about tools, they talk about how those tools could help people, have the improved security and compliance and so on. But I couldn't see any explicit mention to CI/CD in that group. In addition to that, and if you read the blog post coming from OpenSSF, they also didn't highlight CI/CD as one of the things. They talk about build, packaging, deployment, and so on. But there wasn't, again, an explicit call out to CI/CD. And that was, again, my personal reason why I reached out to a few of CDF community members and start discussing about, okay, should we start talking about supply chain topic within Continuous Delivery Foundation as well? Because there is no group in Continuous Delivery Foundation currently, there is no active group in Continuous Delivery Foundation currently looks at software supply chain. In the past, some of you will remember we had 6 security, special interest group security, but that group has been dormant for a while and it has been archived. And these topics pop up under different special interest groups, such as interoperability. And that is not really actually the focus of that group, if we think interoperability from most basic perspective. And I think that concern on top of existing concerns is that maybe we should propose this next special interest group, software supply chain, to Continuous Delivery Foundation to restart these discussions, to find who is interested in taking part in these discussions, how we can contribute to other efforts from CI/CD perspective, and how we can make CI/CD a first-class concern for the communities that are working with supply chain issues. And thus we have the proposal here. And as you see, we highlighted our approach to how we intend to work with this topic if this special interest group gets created. The first approach is obviously like we need to study different aspects of supply chain by looking from CI/CD domain. That is what we have been doing in interoperability by looking at interoperability topic from CI/CD domain. In this group, we want to look at software supply chain aspects from CI/CD domain, and it's not limited to security only. It is about security, compliance, and integrity of supply chain. And there may be other areas we may identify while we start talking about this topic. And the other approach we intend to take is a bit more practice-oriented approach, and that is based on something SIG events did. One of the first things SIG events did was to create a proof of concept to explain the idea behind how events could help with interoperability. And with this SIG software supply chain, one of the ideas we have is to actually create some sample pipelines and have some basic sample Git repositories, building artifacts, signing artifacts, getting those artifacts deployed to some kind of environment to see what kind of activities could help improving the status with the supply chain, which could start on developer workstation by running some kind of static analysis jobs, and then taking it through, container image builds, signing, and so on. So that is the other important aspect we want to highlight in this proposal. And final aspect is like, obviously there are lots of projects and communities are looking into this topic. And I mentioned one of them, OpenSSF, and they are home to various open source projects, and they are looking to bringing new projects to the community as well. Our intention is not to duplicate the work, but actually contribute that broader effort from CI/CD perspective. So when different communities take conversations around supply chain, the CI/CD topic is not neglected. That is one of the key things we as CDF could bring into table based on the projects we have and the contributors we have from all these different projects. So that is basically the idea. And before I ask if anyone have any comments and questions, I've seen two comments, one from, I think Terry, you put a comment about like the difference between interoperability SIG and this proposed SIG. And the other comment was from Oleg, whether we should revive SIG security and rename this proposal to SIG security. And I replied those comments, but just to reiterate what I replied there, as in case of special interest group interoperability, again, I was part of, and I am still part of special interest group interoperability, and our concern was around terminology, standardized metadata, and interface, and that is still the concern for interoperability, because interoperability is about like metadata and interfaces. But over time, and because of the discussions happening within open source communities, our focus shifted to supply chain as well, which is natural, because when you start dealing with some topics, you may find yourself in other topics. But again, in interoperability SIG, we started looking into how the CI/CD technologies or orchestration systems could interact with other systems like SIG store or open policy agents and so on. So that kind of looks at this topic, the supply chain topic, from technological aspect. But the new SIG aims to look at the supply chain topic from practice aspect or methodology aspect or activities, like what kind of activities organizations employ to improve the status of their supply chains, and what else is out there helping with such needs. And I am sure we will hit similar questions we have in discussion within interoperability as well. But again, that technological aspects or interoperability aspects should be discussed within interoperability, while supply chain looks at how the best practices could be employed and how the methodologies could help improving the state of supply chain. Again, I also mentioned like best practice. This is the other relation. We also have SIG best practices under CDF, and this group, supply chain group, should look into opportunities working with that group as well. And another example could be a future-looking statement like SIG events, CD events project. We may identify different types of events, like how we can notify vulnerabilities, which we may need to go back to SIG events and CD events and start discussions there, saying that in this supply chain group, we identified such events could be useful. Could we, contribute to your spec to introduce new types of events, for example? So that is the relations between this proposed SIG and existing SIGs. And the last point is about SIG security. The SIG security was a top-level SIG, and under SIG security, there were two other sub-SIGs, if I'm not mistaken. One of them is called Supply Chain Security SIG, and the other one is called SBOM SIG. And in the proposed SIG, we look at things from a bit broader perspective, saying that, okay, we start discussion around end-to-end software supply chain, And over time, we will probably identify these areas like security, compliance, and integrity. And contributors to this new SIG could come up with other areas like business aspects and so on. And if those contributors want to have focused conversations around security aspects or compliance aspects, they could propose work streams under SIG, supply chain. And if that effort becomes more attractive or more important or more active, we could follow the footsteps of CD events and come up with a new SIG proposal, perhaps looking into security aspects of supply chain. So that's why we didn't propose the new SIG as SIG security, but we proposed it a bit broader with the purpose that we should start talking about this topic under CD Foundation and take part in existing conversations, because CI/CD is important enabler to supply chain itself. So that was longer than usual summary of the proposal and some of the existing comments. And now I see Liora, Georg, and they're in this meeting as well. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns, we can perhaps take a few minutes to discuss this if we have time. Oleg.
We definitely have time. So for me, in general, I'm in favor of creating a SIG if there are contributors who are interested to keep it running. Yes, there might be a lot of overlaps, or let's call them opportunities for collaboration with other instances and projects. Because for me, for example, one of the questions would be whether the SIG eventually would focus on the SPDX ecosystem, and then maybe it would be better to actually start a branch in OpenSSF. But if it's generic applying to all other issues related to supply chain, I think it could be a part of the CDF. So for us, the challenge will be to actually ensure that we get traction and we get more contributors and basically contribute to the ecosystem, so that the outcome of this SIG would be either beneficial to member projects or preferably beneficial to the entire ecosystem.
You mentioned SPDX, yeah, Oleg?
Yep.
Yeah, SPDX was one of the topics we have been talking about under interoperability as well. But SPDX is not the only, standard. So it's like the SBOM topic in itself is a candidate topic to discuss under this SIG, and SPDX will probably be one of the frameworks or standards we will potentially look in addition to maybe Cyclone DX. I don't know. I don't want to speculate much, but yes, SBOM as a topic is highlighted in the proposal as well, I believe. Yeah, it's there. But yeah, the idea is, again, just to reiterate, just to start this conversation within CDF community and see if we have interest from within CD Foundation community. And obviously, like, if we don't get enough traction, TOC will be notified. And if we, if you can't make a contribution to domain, then yeah, we take that discussion if we see the need. But the initial, response from the members listed in the proposal gives me, encourages me as person, and over time, more people will hopefully join if this gets approved. And then we see how to handle the dependencies and overlaps, and to make sure we don't duplicate the work, and we make sure we bring topics that are concern for other SIGs, both in CD Foundation and elsewhere, to their groups.
So I certainly think that this is a useful topic for us to be talking about. My concerns really were around the feeling that creating lots of separate silos for different aspects of the continuous delivery problem doesn't really align very well with the the ethos of continuous delivery. And I'm a little bit worried that we're going to end up with a lot of separate independent work streams that are not communicating well with each other and are either diverging or duplicating a lot of effort. So it would be good to just talk a little bit more about how we're going to align these pieces of work, and how we stay away from a situation where we've got two streams, one which is talking about how to interoperate with CI/CD systems, and then another one which is how to interoperate with things securely, because we have to make sure that we're presenting a consistent view to everyone who wants to consume this information, and make sure that we are structuring ourselves in such a way that the output that we're creating is a coherent piece of work that is actually going to add value. It's that classic adage about you end up building the systems that align to the structure of your organization.
Yeah, like I think your concern is pretty valid. Hey, like, but the past experience, like, I think we have a good example. Again, Andrea, sorry, like, I think this is a good thing. I always point to CD events, and because, like, if you remember, CD events was actually formed as a work stream under SIG interoperability, and then it got moved to its own SIG. But if you read CD events website, for example, it clearly highlights that CD events is an event protocol to tackle with interoperability and so on. I don't remember exactly how it was worded, but even though CD events left special interest group interoperability and became its own SIG, we didn't, lose the connection between two SIGs, even though interoperability is above SIG events, if you look at that way. And I think the community we have here, like, I think we are all, as a group, as a community, trying to contribute domain and to make our users' lives better, or our organization's lives better, or other projects' lives better. And that gives me, again, that encourages me that we will not actually lose connection between different groups, even though we call this SIG X and we call the other one SIG Y, because that has become a practice within the community. And if you look at number of SIGs we have now, I think we have SIG interoperability, SIG events, and SIG best practices, and SIG MLOps. And I believe we all contribute with each other pretty well. For example, some of the topics that was discussed with interoperability actually taken by best practices and SIG interoperability didn't continue on those topics, such as like terminology of general CD terms, for example. But that didn't stop us from working with SIG best practice, even though that wasn't the main concern for SIG interoperability. So that's kind of, again, that is kind of my thinking when it comes to, if we have a risk that we all start creating new groups and those groups start doing things without talking to each other. But again, I don't see that happening in CD Foundation. The other topic, would it make sense to continue these conversations in under special interest group interoperability? Perhaps I could say yes, but again, that could derail the SIG interoperability focus from actual interoperability to practices or activities one could employ within their supply chains. So that kind of makes me think, okay, if we talk about supply chain and these pipelines under interoperability, what about the interoperability topics? Who will be talking about them if we don't talk them on the interoperability SIG? So that is kind of how I think when it comes to creating a new SIG and ensuring these SIGs work well with each other based on how we have been working together around these topics. But again, yeah, I agree to your concern.
Yeah, and maybe what we need to do is look at a more formal structure for ensuring that all this information is continuously integrated together into a view that everybody holds. because the challenge is if we require everyone to attend every SIG in order to keep up to date with what's going on, then you've got that n² problem of, you know, the number of potential communication paths that are going to crop up. So I think this is something we need to think about in general as we start to take on more pieces of work and start to get involved in more and more aspects in this field. It's how do we make sure that we're not losing information or getting you know, split-brained about what we're doing.
I think TOC has a role to play there. I think last year we were getting presentations from different SIGs. I think TOC is a good place where these type of risks could be identified and community could be, you know, notified about what's happening elsewhere and the possibilities to look for closer collaboration or bringing things together and so on. Because it's like, as you say, like it may become difficult to follow what's happening under these different SIGs, but as TOC, we should try to have such discussions happening during TOC meetings or discussed on TOC mail list or documented in the roadmap, like Oleg is doing a great job there. And the other thing related to SIGs, in addition to SIGs, we also have, like, I think we have 6 projects, and it would be important to bring those things as well to TOC, so we could take a more complete view of what's happening under SIGs, what's happening in the projects, and look for cross collaboration opportunities. So again, that may not be specific to SIG topic, but to CDF as a whole, maybe.
Yeah, speaking of that, today, right at this time slot, there is a CDF TOC meeting, and their talks do quarterly updates, basically all these presentations about statuses. So yeah, maybe we should start doing the same with all the SIGs.
And projects, maybe, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I totally agree that actually TOC is specifically created to coordinate all these activities. So we can ensure that communications happen. In the case of this proposal, we have 2 TOC members on the list, plus we have Kara, who represents the foundation. So I think that the communication bandwidth is good enough. But yeah, of course, we still need to follow this topic. So yeah, for me, communication is not a big concern, and if we can want to proceed as is, I think we can do that.
Yeah, the only open issue is we don't have TOC sponsor. I have conflict of interest in this. You know, I didn't want to put myself as TOC sponsor. So again, if anyone wants to sponsor this SIG from TOC, please state your interests directly on the PR before perhaps TOC starts voting, because this could become as a question. And I want to say I am the sponsor.
I don't think that actually being a sponsor would cause any conflict of interest for you. So, yeah, I don't have strong opinion, but I definitely don't want to commit to be a TOC sponsor right now. I have changed, so I have a few items already to handle. So, anyone else? Andrea, Melissa, Terry. Yeah.
I don't think having Fatih as a sponsor as well would be a conflict, but it's up to you. If you feel it might be a conflict, then we can find another sponsor.
I'm happy to help on the communication side, should it be needed. I mean, roadmap, alignment, etc. But yeah, I'm not sure whether I can commit to join another regular meetings right now. Quite many of them already.
But yeah, we can take this offline. Yeah.
Yep. So
Oleg,
maybe,
if it's
yep. Yes,
Mark, wait here. Sorry, if it's okay, I'll connect with Fatih separately. I'm not sure I can join a separate meeting, but I may be interested in the topic and want to explore it further. So I'll thanks for letting me listen in, and I'll chat with him separately.
Thanks. So yeah, I think that to summarize, generally we have an agreement that we can proceed with the SIG. Yeah, we definitely need to put some work in alignment on communication, maybe reintroduce a framework on the TOC level. So if you agree that we do, let's say, quarterly SIG presentations, then I think it wouldn't hurt. Maybe not like CNCF all at once, but just having agreed slot. But yeah, I think it would be important regardless of the SIG. And the rest, yeah. So we have an action item to see whether we could have a TOC sponsor, but I don't think it's blocking.
Cool. Thanks a lot for the time slot. Thank you.
That's fine. And thanks for driving this effort. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so do we have any other topics left? So I suggest we quickly discuss FOSDEM, since there was a reminder. So for me, it's definitely a reminder because I still have to submit a recording of my presentation. So I'm doing evaluation of open source CI/CD in the main track. And yeah, we'll be also doing Captain and Jenkins talks, assuming that I will be able to record everything in time, which is currently a bit of struggle. But yeah. And CD events will be also presented at the CI/CD track. So Andre will be presenting together with Eric or with Steven.
Yeah, we have our recording deadline was the 17th of January, so we have a long time on our recording.
So you recorded it? Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I also recorded it. I'm just not very happy, so I reserve my option to submit something later than the deadline. But yeah. Okay. So regarding FOSDEM, my understanding that this year there will be no developer table for the CDF. It was a bit strange how it was organized this year because I believe there was no public call for applications for developer tables. At the same time, some communities were contacted. For example, Jenkins was contacted, and Jenkins decided not to have a dev table this year. But I'm not sure what's the status of the CDF.
We don't have a dev table. But what we are going to be doing, it's already planned, is to be doing a nice shout out for the talks from our community on Twitter, and just encouraging, just letting people know the talks are happening. We're really excited about them and encouraging attendance. So I think both yours and Andrea's talk on cloud events is going to be, and CD events is going to be really interesting. So very excited about it. The other, well, I'll let you finish on FOSDEM and then I'll just do a quick announcement on CDF.
Okay. So I just wanted to open this page. So we also have other projects, but I'm not sure, do we have Tickton or Spinnaker in the agenda this year? So kernel CI is based on Jenkins. MariaDB, I'm not sure, I believe it was based on Jenkins too. This is Jenkins, yeah. Crossplane, okay, Captain. But so I'm not sure whether other communities have applied. Yeah, Windows containers. So yeah, there are other talks. Okay. So if nothing else, let's proceed with CDCon.
CDCon early bird talk submissions deadline is ended. We had 82 submissions, so that's pretty exciting. That's a lot of talks to read, but it should be so far so good. Very, very nice to read the submissions. The CFP is still open until the 18th of February, so please keep submitting talks to CDCon. The other announcements that are happening that I can say for community events, as you know, Oleg, we are likely to, in fact, almost certainly it's penciled in. We have a room for it, running a Jenkins Contributor Summit. And Alyssa will be organizing that. So we're very happy to host that. In addition, we'll also be doing one for Tecton Contributor Summit, and Andrea has very nicely volunteered to help organize that. So beyond that, actually, we have space. And so I'm just putting this out as an open call. If other projects would like to run a contributor summit, please do contact me. I'll be reaching out to projects, but please do also reach out to me. That helps, so I know who is interested in being involved in organizing those contributor summits. It's nice when someone already does it right away. That worked out well.
Yeah, that's me. Maybe Jenkins X can do something about that. So yeah, we will see.
Great. Glad to hear it, Ankit. Thank you.
Yeah, so for Jenkins X, since we're talking about events, if anyone is going to KubeCon, I'm gonna contact with the staff of the Jenkins bar. So if you want to organize happy hour for Jenkins and Jenkins 6, we potentially have a venue.
I am not going to KubeCon. Is it virtual by any chance? No.
Well, there is a chance that it will be virtual, but right now it's planned to be in person in Valencia. Well, you never know with the current situation.
Okay. Yeah, but we will see.
So I guess Tecton will be represented there too, maybe other projects. So hopefully we'll be able to organize something.
Okay.
Anything else on events? Okay, so we are slowly running out of time. Let's just quickly open the dashboard, what we have, but I don't think there were many updates. So inclusive naming initiative, definitely no updates. I think people, they said they would look into it. We haven't received any response, and we got confirmation from Tracy that the application is still pending. So no progress. Clean up the landscape, Kara, were there any movements?
A little bit has been done there, just on adding new members and sort of organizing the member list, and also adding CD events to the landscape. So that was pretty fun and exciting. Beyond that, though, my own bandwidth or focus is shifting. So I think we can say this is iteration 1 of clean up the CDF landscape that's been done. I don't know if that needs to sit on the board, just because I'm not sure how much time I'm going to be able to put to it in the next couple of months. It's not, by like all these things, it's always a work in progress. So, the issues and the ability to make PRs, please continue to do so. We are always interested in improving the landscape.
Okay, thanks for driving this effort. Yeah. So streamline, simplify project onboarding. I guess that the status is the same. We need to regroup. We need to understand what do we do with follow-ups raised to Tracy, so some patenting topics, etc. This still where we need inputs from the CDF and from the Linux Foundation. Yeah, right now it doesn't seem to be an immediate priority. So let's see. Then Tecton security audit, basically the same.
Yeah, no updates. I mean, we have the first meeting on the 17th of February, and that's still the status.
So yeah, I heard from CNCF that Argo security audit takes a lot of time, and I guess vendor did the same, right?
I'm not sure if it's the same, but it might be. I mean, there are, I think, a couple of vendors that have done a lot of the projects. So Tecton is with Triloop Bits, which is the same one who was done at CD and Kubernetes.
Understood. So yeah, basically on the CNCF side, they just finished the evaluation of one project. Then they have Argo. They just, well, not just, they started it, but they say that the project is big, so it may take quite a lot of time. Then, yeah, there is Captain in the queue also. That's why I monitor this topic. But yeah, I guess Captain and Tecton will be somewhere around the same time frame. Yeah, let's see. And for all other items, I don't think there is a specific agenda. Well, except CDCon definitely moving somewhere here. If you want to work on that. So basically, do you want to propose any topics, panels, etc. for CDCon?
I'm sorry, can you clarify this question, Oleg?
Yeah, so basically the question, as a TOC, do we want to propose something for CDCon agenda? Probably not, but yeah, we can revise this topic at the next meeting. So at some point I was thinking whether it makes sense to have a panel to discuss whatever strategy seeks and just to get feedback on the foundation. But yeah, I'm not sure whether it's the right venue and the right format. So let's see. And yeah, basically that's it. Do we have any other topics to discuss?
The other thing is maybe what we mentioned earlier about SIG presentations. I don't know if it makes sense to have an item in the roadmap, or we could discuss it next time. Maybe the format. We could have, I don't know, a monthly slot or something where SIG could present their work, or, well, something like that. I mean, in Tecton, we have multiple projects that they work independently, but they also need some coordination. So we have triggers, pipelines, dashboard, and so forth. And that's what we're thinking of, having like a monthly slot when the project has a new interesting feature to demo it to the others, so that everyone stays up to date what's going on. So maybe we could do something similar for SIGs.
Maybe. So currently we have 4 active SIGs, right? Best practices, interoperability, events, and you know, the upcoming supply chain. Basically, we can easily have a slot every month, or maybe every 2 months, something like 10 minutes per project if needed, up to 10 minutes, and then we have these updates.
So that gives us the information flow in one direction. We probably need to think about how we then disseminate that back out across the other SIGs so that everyone's getting a shared view.
So basically, you would like to have all SIGs represented so that they could communicate with each other. We could try doing that. But in this case, I'm not sure whether monthly is feasible. But yeah, what we could do, we could tentatively offer SIGs, let's say in March, do quarterly update. We dedicate a full meeting to that, so that every SIG does the presentation and we facilitate the discussion. And we ask SIG chairs to join the meeting so that we have this critical mass of people who can communicate the outcomes to the rest. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Potentially, I think we have tried to do that previously, and it's been difficult to get the attendance up. So we may want to have a think about other alternative mechanisms by which we can get the parallel SIGs to be communicating with each other effectively.
Maybe an option could be if we get the presentations into run a newsletter type of format. So we kind of disseminate information about what's going on or like relevant news from the SIGs, and then it's distributed to a newsletter. I mean, we would need maybe someone on the TOC or TOC to prepare it, and SIG leads review it or something like that, or the SIG leads contribute to it.
The other thing we could potentially consider is running periodic workshops between the SIGs so that we actively put people together, sharing the components that they're working on and swapping their concerns.
Yeah.
I don't think that synchronous communication channels going to work reliably, because you send the mail, etc. Then nobody really looks at it because everyone is busy. So ideally, we should try getting people at the table, even that it might be difficult. But if you can get recorded and distributed it afterwards, it would be still important. So my suggestion would be to try to invite people to see what happens. You can also encourage them to write blog posts, etc. about SIG updates. I guess CDF website would benefit from this content. Or maybe we could recover monthly asynchronous SIG and project updates. So in the beginning of the CDF, then Lawrence was reaching out to everyone, asking for monthly updates. Would it be also an option we'd consider?
Again, my recommendation would be to eat our own dog food on this and apply continuous delivery techniques to this problem. So maybe what we need to do is actually encourage individuals to cycle themselves around the SIGs and join some of the meetings periodically, just so that there's regular interaction and we're getting more of that collaborative information going on.
So the keyword regularly. We could try. So I think we could just try from interoperability SIG / events. And maybe it makes sense to do a kind of update anyway. So, well, event SIG has been basically a base for 3 of 4 currently running SIGs. So maybe we could just invite everyone and best practices to the next SIG interoperability meeting, so that we could have some communication about what's going on there. Would it work?
I certainly think it's worth exploring.
So as part of the SIG events meetings, at least once every 2 weeks, we have a section in the agenda that is always updates from other meetings, like from interoperability, best practices, and from the TOC. And often we have at least one of us in the meeting that has been in this other, so we try and provide this kind of updates already.
Yeah, I think if from interop SIG perspective, I think again, I also mentioned this. I think we have participants from best practices and events SIG in SIG interop meetings. So I don't know, like, yeah, if this should be a big concern for us, but still, it would be good to have some regular sync during TOC meetings to make sure this continues happening.
I do like how the events SIG does this. It's very efficient while being quite low key. There aren't, you know, presentations that you have to do, but it's simply the attendees who are involved in the other SIGs can give updates on what those SIGs are doing. And it just works very well because we're working all in interrelated areas. But we have so much in common with the work that we're doing, and it's nice to keep track of it while leaving space within the individual SIGs for focus areas. So that works quite nicely. And I would imagine in the TOC we have enough individuals from all the SIGs that we could do this and have it be just simply part of regular TOC meetings or every other TOC meeting, however you feel best to organize it.
Yeah, so what I did, I just edited to the template. So basically, next time do the meeting, just ask everyone basically one by one in the list and ask whether you have something to report. Oh yeah, MLOps, right? I forgot. Maybe we could do the same for the projects if someone is interested. Yeah, then I'm not sure how much time this part would take. Do the same for the project. Fine with everyone? So basically my action item would be to invite people to join the next interoperability SIG, not the one this Thursday, but the next one. And also the next TOC meeting, we do these updates. And with everyone? Let's approach like that. So yeah, and then the next meeting is February 15th. So have a great FOSDEM and other conferences, whoever has them. And yep, talk to you soon.
Thanks, Oleg.
And yeah, thanks again for the new SIG proposal.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks all.